Hey, welcome everyone. It is good to see you all. Omar, Mehmet, Panda. This is amazing. Okay, so much to do. I always when there's a minor release coming, like, I'm always excited. But it's also quite a push because we suddenly want to focus on making sure we have features in place, and all that we need is ready to go. Hey, nice to see you, Massey. So there are some things definitely that we can. Oops. What's going on here? Oh, I think this is. There we go. This arc being clever. So we have stuff to do, for sure. Okay, let's figure out what we're going to do. You can actually, Omar. I was talking about to Anthony about this the other day. We have all the pieces. So we have support for detecting type exports, and we have support for auto importing them. So he is going to implement this, but behind a flag, because what we want to make sure is that we don't, by adding type imports, we don't want to sort of make your TypeScript or IDE experience slower. So that's our main worry. But we're going to put it behind a flag so you can enable it and try it out and see if it works for you. And then maybe if we don't have performance issues, we can enable it by default. Yeah, so that's the plan. Now, I have actually not come on the stream with any particular plan. Like, there are a lot of things I feel I ought to do. But a stream is also a way of escaping from things you ought to do and figuring out other things that can be done. So I think this is actually a discussion. Let's see. What makes sense? This is also a good opportunity. If there's something I can do that you want, let me know. My desk. I should take a photograph of it. But at the moment, you would see things like a letter from the tax authority and some vitamin D or something like that. The tiny senior dev is not present. I think I had a rough night last night, I'll tell you. I think I had 3 hours sleep because I was up late debugging a memory leak issue. And then basically he woke up at around 1 and did not go back to sleep other than for little moments. So I came down about 5, having had a sort of pretty fitful night of him. So it wasn't a massive amount of sleep. Yeah, sorry about the power cut. That was totally unexpected. Oh, thank you. But yeah, the power cut was not cool. So I've explained that, and it should be that we have no more power cuts ever. Right, I am just scrolling. So, what are we saying? Server only. Yeah, I'm glad it solved the issue for you. What is also going to solve an issue for you, potentially, is this. So this PR, which is now ready to go, we have all tests passing after a few fixes and features. But experimental native async context will mean you do not actually need to use run with context. It will just automatically do it all for you. So this is going to solve a lot of problems for people in Nuxt and Vue, and definitely definitely in Nuxt. But at the moment it has some limitations. So it only works on node targets, so not edge. And Puya plans to implement some stuff in Nitro as well, and we'll pair the two and merge them. And this will really make your life better. But for the moment, it is a experimental feature. Let's see. Okay, server only. We'll give it a go. We'll give it a go. So server only. Do I have a server only branch? I don't have a server only branch. We'll have to rebuild it, but that's fine. Okay, feat server only. Now the concept here is that what we want to do is when we have a, say, we have playground here, we want to be able to put some code in a server only block, and for that code not to actually be included in the client side, but automatically be a server component, which actually is more complicated than it might sound. So if we want to do something like this, we want to have some content, and this basically needs to be always rendered on the server, even when transitioning to this page from a different page. So there are a couple of things that we would do. I think the first thing is that I'll create a component so that we have types for this server only thing, even if we don't actually use the component. So let's go in again to components, and we'll add why is this here? We'll add it, I guess that does make sense. We'll add it within the components. So we'll say server only, and we will create a component, which will be very basic. This is only here for types. So as in that's what I'm imagining. So we're going to say the component is going to be called server only, and it won't take any props. And it is simply going to render its default slot. So like this. Okay, so we basically have a server only component, super simple, and we will register it as in our Nuxt components in the components module. We have this one. Where are we registering the server component? Oh, we're not. It might make sense actually to stick this back in app. Okay, we'll stick it in here. Okay. Server only, and we have client only there, which I guess that is better. So we basically will register it here. Alongside the client only and dev only. And these will be capitalized. Okay, done. So we have a component, which means that if we were to run our playground, yeah, well, I'll tell you what. There is an even more amazing. Have you seen Synthwave? It is, I actually did get my VS Code set up this way. It is amazing. Like, it's amazing. How about that? Look at that. That's great, isn't it? I genuinely, you have to do a few things. Like, you have to hack into VS Code a little bit to modify the CSS. But this is a very, oh, no, it seems it's no longer required. That's great. Anyway. Check it out. This is beautiful. Like, why would you not want this? Okay, so here we are. So basically, this should be typed now. Is it typed? Ooh, that's not what I meant to do, but it's gonna work. I meant to just reload the TypeScript server. Come on. Yeah, okay. So it's typed. It knows it's a component, that is. Like it doesn't have any real types, but it knows it's a component. Reaper, welcome. So great. So basically, if we were to hit this, we would presumably, what's the deal? also have to forward port for Vite. Right. That is presumably going to come through. Great. And we should see that we've got... Do we not have anything? Oh, we do actually have an issue. Oh, we've... The issue is that we haven't actually registered this as a default export. So we'll just say like this. That should work. And magic. It's also built with magic, Omar. It's not just TypeScript. Okay, there we go. So it's coming through. Pizza. There is pizza involved. 100%. Okay. So basically the component is not doing anything at the moment. It's not a server-only component. It's just a stub. So what we want to do is not include this on the client side, and include this on the server side. So therefore it means that it has to be a plugin, which we're going to stick in core. And so we're going to create this server only transform. And I actually was doing this, I think, when my power died, creating this nice little snippet. Okay, so we have our server only transform. And what we want to do is basically replace a component with a server component. Oh, I think it probably it does belong in components. Let's stick it in there. Okay, so what we want to do is register it in the components module. So we'll pull in, okay, we'll do it here. We'll use the new add build plugin thing, and we'll say server only transform plugin, and we'll pass it next. And that needs to be we'll have it take next as a param, and then this should be, what's the deal? That's weird. That suggests to me that we have an issue with multiple dependencies of Vite here. There we go. Look, someone mentioned that before. I need to remember to change that, but I can't while I'm on the stream, and then it's too late. So I'll say 1080p stream. But the reason probably, almost certainly, is that I changed it in order to make it less taxing on my system. So that's probably why it is, but that isn't why it should be. Okay. This is really weird. Okay. So I should now have a transform. I'm just going to ignore this. And oh, I think maybe this. There we go. Let's see if that makes the difference. Yeah, there we go. It was expecting more arguments, but the way I've written it is actually that we can come up with arguments here. So we'll say next options source map client, or next options source map server, and we're not doing anything at the moment. This is just overhead, but we have added it. So you can see added plugin. If we run our server again, we should see that we add a plugin. Pop. Okay, so what we want to do is transform these view single file components. So we will basically transform them directly before they become processed by the view plugin view. And we only want to transform view single file components. So we're going to say we are going to only transform view files, and specifically we only want to transform the template. So that's going to exclude CSS, and it's going to exclude just script blocks, which we wouldn't be interested in. So that means we could, if you want to see what counts as that, we could just log it out here. So these end up making it through into the actual transform block. And if we make a hit, the plugin shouldn't run. I guess it's running for warm up, but you see, we're just getting these .view files. That's what's coming in. And so that's what we want to transform. So I think to start with, we can create a regular expression, server only component single will be basically server only or server only. And this, I've made a single regular expression so we can early return. So we can basically say, if not test code, return. Great. So that will slightly enhance the performance. So how does one make money as an open source dev? Are you paid to build feature requests? Are you GitHub sponsored? Or paid to build open source extensions for existing products? So, I mean, there are lots of different ways that people make a living as an open source developer. And I think it depends a lot on what people prefer, as in what people want to do with their lives. For me, we'll call this tag. And then we should have, and then we'll have a back reference to tag. There we go. So this will pull in all the server component tags. Hey Tina. So for me, I'm sponsored, and I have consultancy arrangements in place. So basically, companies and individuals sponsor me to do open source full time, and I do a very small amount of consulting on top of that, which basically means, and I should also say that none of that affects my direction because I prize my independence. If I were not independent, I would be doing something else. So people are not so much as telling me what to do as enabling me to do what I want to do, which hopefully aligns with what they want as well. I'm a big believer in sort of having a shared vision. Anyway, and I really very much don't like sponsorship as a way of, like, what I want to do is a gift. And when someone sponsors me, I treat that as a gift. Like, there's no obligation either way. I don't feel obliged to help people. I do it because I want to. And people sponsor me not because they need to, but because they want to. And that is much nicer, I find, in terms of a lot of things. So we have, let's just check that I've written this regular expression correctly. So I think I actually have there's that. There. No. Oh, where did global come from? That's just somehow added in. What? Invalid regular expression flags. I think I might have inadvertently early ended that. Well, I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you. What's going on here? What's missing? What's the reason? What is going on? Hey, welcome, Colombia, a country I've never been to, but a beautiful one, I believe. Why? Invalid regular expression. Oh, nothing to repeat. I think. Is that what it is? is it adding this G? Oh, I think it's somehow auto-completing it. That's what it is. Right, so server component RE. We're just going to test server only hi. Great, and the great thing about doing the back reference here is that it doesn't match invalid ones like that. So I didn't find it. Basically, pressure makes a big difference, right? When you have to do something, or you have some kind of time sort of pressure, then that is makes your life a lot harder. What is even going on in the chat? I did not find it difficult to move, but that was because I didn't directly go into dev after university. I studied law. I then did other things, which obviously these guys know. And, you know, I dabbled occasionally. Basically, my main, I use Linux. I love Linux. So that was my introduction to Perl and Bash and Ruby and all kinds of stuff. Okay. What is this? You guys are so funny. Okay. So we're going to basically do some transforms here. So I think what we want to do to start with is we're going to replace Nux 3.7 is genuinely going to be like tomorrow. We're waiting for the reason I have this extra timed but extra features in, which not that I'm actually making fantastic progress. I'm talking about this. The Bash Bishop. what I need to do is the reason it's delayed is because we actually want to make sure that we have a new Nitro miner and H3 miner, which includes things like native streaming support for Nux, which will be super cool. But we thought it was worth delaying a couple of days, Nux 3.7 for that. The Bash Bishop is Reaper. You can't change it again. You just changed it yesterday. So, all right. So match of code match all. Okay. So that would let us do something. And what we want to do is basically replace them. In fact, we might not need to do it exactly like that. We might just say s replace server only component. RE. And then we can basically do some stuff here. So we could, for example, just return server only and get rid of any slot. So if we did this, if we ran this, we would basically expect to the next H3 miner, will it include? It will. But actually, we have to implement the typing, like the typing in $fetch as well. It's a separate PR, which I will do unless someone else gets there first. Okay, if we pull in, but that is a good point. Maybe that is something I should do. But I need to wait for H3 to be released. So at the moment, we have a pre-release of H3. But we actually haven't released 0.8.0. So we have just a couple of release candidates, but that is going to be out soon. When it is, I can implement the typings in Nitro, which will mean that we'll automatically get the benefit of that in Nuxt. The Vicar of View. So basically what you see is that now there is nothing being returned here. That's what we expected. It's just going to be an empty div. Except we're not going to want to replace it with server only. We're going to want to replace it with Nuxt Island. And we're going to want to basically create this island component and pass it some props. And that's going to hopefully make it. So useFetch and useAsyncData are identical, basically. useFetch is basically calling useAsyncData, but useAsyncData supports any kind of asynchronous function, but useFetch specifically makes a fetch request in that function. So useFetch is virtually the same as calling useAsyncData and then passing the fetch of whatever you want to fetch. So useFetch is just like a convenient wrapper around it. Very little additional code. It just does use async data, but with a fetch call. So the API is the same. All the options of use async data are available in useFetch. It does some stuff automatically for you, but that's about it. Okay, so we want to do two things here. We want to be able to render the next island, and it's going to need to have a unique name. And then we're going to have to emit a component. So our to-dos are one, emit like server component per server only block, and two, we are going to need to reference emitted component, like transform templates to reference the emitted component. Like that's what we're going to have to do. Okay, so emitting the server component is probably actually slightly harder because we've virtually already transformed the template to reference it. Like this, we just need the name, and that's part of emitting the component. So I think, now the way that Next Island works is that we have now Next Island itself is a component which performs a network request. And the network request is going to basically hit this underscore Next Island endpoint. And that Next Island endpoint is going then to render a component with this island renderer. So it's a couple of steps in order to make that happen. So this island renderer is going to import from this component islands virtual file. And the component island, thank you, that's nice. And the component islands virtual file is here. It is generated at this point. And it is generated from the components within the components module, which is why this is moved. This is why this transform is in the components module. I think I put it there. Because we're going to need access to the components context. So let's see if we can do it this way. This might actually not work. We're going to say let app next hook app resolve. We're going to get an app. And we're going to set it. We're going to say app equals app. And this is going to need to be next app. We actually need to rename that type because it's confusing. So because it's similar to another next app in the next world, which is a very different thing. Okay, so basically what we're going to do here is we want to load a server component. So just to see how it would work. Okay, let's create a map. So I'm not entirely sure how to do this. Okay, so we'll have a component map. It's going to be a new map, and it will be a string. I guess it will. We might not even need this. Okay, so basically we can count the server components in a component very easily. So we can just have a counter, and we can increment that. So right. So we can basically track every possible server component in this thing. So the name can involve that. So the name can be. We could hash the ID. So let's see, import hash from, oh no, it's hash from hash. And we can basically just hash ID plus like this incrementing number. And that will give us a name. So we can basically say this is going to be the name of our server-only component. And no props, because it's all set in the thing. And so what we would then want to make sure that we have is we then want to make sure that we have added to our app components a component that can be imported. So we could try, this is probably the wrong way to do it, but let's just try it and see what happens. So we're going to add a component to our server component. So we're going to say it's a server component. We're going to say it has a file path, which is going to be a virtual file. So we're going to say server only, and then we're going to have the name that we generated here, which is just basically a hash. Oh no, that's fine, I think. Okay, so if we said that, and then we also want to have island true, and actually, I think what we want to do is we don't have to worry about that. We can actually just use the same ID as we have here, but we can put a query on it. So we could say with query ID, and then what we're going to do is say server component ID. And we also need some other things. Pascal name is going to be name, and kebab name is going to be name. And what else do we need? Chunk name, export, prefetch, preload, short path. Goodness. Short path. Okay, so these are our default values. Right, so we'll stick those in. Priority is not really relevant here. Export is default. Our chunk name, do we care about that? Yes, we do. We're just going to give it the name. It's not global. And then the kebab name and Pascal name we already have. And we already have put mode server in, and short path will be the same as the file path there. Okay, so we basically registered a server component, and now it may be at the wrong stage in the process, but anyway, let's see if this works. Now, all we've done is we've just exported the same component as a server component. So what we want, therefore, to do is do a different transform if we have this query. So basically, if get query ID server component. And we can do the same here. So basically, if this is if we're loading the thing that we've exported, so now we're loading it in the server component context and not the main one here, then we're going to actually do a completely different transform. So we'll still have the magic string, but what we'll do instead is we're going to replace everything but the server component regular expression. So we basically want to grab the entire script block and replace it with only the contents of the server component. So what we want in this case is const matches equals code match all server component, regular expression. And then if matches const component index is that. And if there is a component index, then we're going in. If matches oh, I think we could actually just do match in this case, because we don't care about the contents. I think do we care about the contents? Yeah, we probably do care about the contents. So in fact, we do want to. Okay, so we'll basically say if match index equals then we're going to do this. And then we're going to return one way or another here. Aha! Hello, David. Nice to see you. I am manually answering all of my hash things. There's more information on this site, but basically it's dank mono, which is that. Okay, so we're going to iterate over it. If it's the right one, then we're going to replace the entire contents of the template with just this. So we'll need our template, which is going to be template, and oh, this isn't great, is it? We already have an islands transform, which is the same, it seems. But it's problematic, actually. But anyway. Or is it? It might be fine. Might be fine. Okay, let's see. We are going to basically s.replace template with just the content of match 1. Which is going to be the contents of this server only component regular expression. And then we're going to probably break. And then I think what we want to do is this. And I'll refactor this because I don't like having code in more than one place, but hey. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I think we're going to want to avoid doing, I think we want to increment. We're going to start at, no, this is fine actually. That is fine. Hey, you're on it. Okay. So basically, what we're doing here is registering a server component of the same file and outputting it. Now this is probably going to work. This is probably not going to work at all. And we haven't actually needed to load anything because we're just reloading the same file but with an additional transform step. So let's see. It's probably not going to work, right? Like this is where it all goes wrong. Yeah, there we go. Cannot read property of undefined. Presumably because this app resolve has not happened yet. I think what we could do is basically say we could have a different take, and we could might need to have a sort of persistent component thing. So we could basically say component map again, but we'll just make it a record, and we'll basically say it's a record of string to string. And then what we're going to do is when we get our app, in fact, we're going to say app templates, and we're in this case going to inject the components at that point. So we'll basically grab these things and put them in here. So basically for const entry in component map, we are going to want to push this, and we are basically going to component map dot name equals this thing. Okay, and so that means that what we're iterating through is sort of for name in component map, path equals component map name, or we could just do entries, I guess. Maybe we actually will make it a map in a second, but for now we can have path, and then we're just going to replace this with path. Okay, so this is basically going to, I think, do the same thing. The font is paid. If you don't want to pay, I can recommend a couple of others. There's some very, very nice fonts out there. I like actually FiraCode with iScript is a very nice sort of similar kind of combination. Okay, let's see what happens now. What happens? Yeah, it's not working, right? Oh, I need to enable component islands. Let's see. Okay, so there's an error loading the component. We probably need to improve this. Yeah, that's totally what I used before this. Is the FiraCode iScript. Oh, Yuri, hello. Nice to see you. Okay, something's not working about this, and actually this is a good reminder that we probably need to improve the island renderer a bit here. So it's throwing an error, I think, but we're not actually seeing this. So I think let's just console if process.dev. We're going to log this out because I think that's just what's happened. Let's see. Yeah, that's right. Okay, and it's actually coming in as undefined, which is odd. So why is this coming in as, what does Nux Island expect? So Nux Island expects some props, a name, props, context source. And we basically call it in ServerOnly with, not ServerOnly, server component. We call it with a name, lazy and props. Okay. So what is the actual request? Why is the renderer Oh, I see. This is actually quite wrong because it shouldn't be. The point is there is nothing. That's always going to be. That's just not correct. It should be this. That should be what we are logging. Okay, so now this should come in and it should tell us it can't find that. Okay, that's fine. That's what you were expecting. Great. Well, that's a separate thing that we can fix. Let's just make that commit. So Okay, so fix next log component name when island render fails. When island when can't be found. Okay. Hey, Joaquin. Nice to see you. So, right. Okay. So the problem at this point is it's probably an ordering issue, because what we're doing is we are adding the server component to an array, and we probably need to regenerate the templates. And so we probably want to do something like this. Probably want to do, oh wait, next, this is probably wrong, but anyway, we'll say next hooks, regenerate templates, build, generate app. We'll just use update templates. We actually have a handy command for this. So we want to say we only want to update the next island templates. So the file name is components.islands.mjs. So we can specify that we want to update that template. And probably, again, we will want to refactor this. Interesting. Okay. We basically have something going on. So, yeah, we've got something going on. This isn't exactly right. I think it's basically rendering it multiple times. We're rendering it within the page, because you can see a couple of copies here. So what's happening is that we are pulling in. Let's just log the component index, and I want to see what we've done with the transform here. I do so much console logging. Okay, that's not being hit at all. Can I await it? Okay, here we have updated the templates. And what are we replacing this with? We're not performing the replacement, basically. Oh, no? I think it's never making it through to the actual. Oh no, it is. Okay, it is coming. But the ID is wrong. We are somehow. We're passing the entire ID as. Yeah, we don't want to hash the ID. We want to hash. No, we want to hash the ID. Actually, we don't care about the hash. We need a hash. So but all we care here is about the value of I. So is that right? Let's try that again. Okay, server component is 0, which means, but for some reason transform is not being called here. I wonder if because it's 0, it's counting as falsy. Interesting. I think the problem is the I don't know what the problem is. It's probably something to do with I encountered a lot of this stuff when doing macros. Okay, so we're hitting the transform include there. I'll just say return true. It might be that the get query isn't right. Like it's not. Okay, so now it is coming through. So we now actually have transformed this, and we have template, but we're not, doesn't appear that we have actually made the transform that I was hoping we would. Because what it's done is we've replaced, this is why. We want to replace the match index. Match index. Except we want to overwrite the entire contents of the component. So we want to overwrite the like all of the template, the contents of the template. We're not actually using it. So right, let's try this again. So const template is code match template, and what we want to do. Oh wait, we want to overwrite replace template. Was that what it was before? Have I just gone a long way around to fix this? Let's try that one more time. So we have still the end tag and still the end tag of template. Okay, so I think there's a problem with my regular expression, clearly. The back reference should refer to the named group there, right? Like this should... Oh, for goodness sake. We'll try it this way. That's right. That's also right. So what's the problem here? Why are we only replacing this thing? Is the issue that we actually need to include template? I think we probably do need to do that. I do. Is there something you want me to review? It's like I can have a look at something. I really don't get why this is not. What is going on here? Just have a quick look at something that's a little bit more human readable. So this is totally untransformed, I guess. Okay, so it's not a mismatching end tag. It's just not being transformed. So okay, is that the issue? So we have a component index, which is 0. And we also have a match index. Let's try that. It's silly. Okay, what I want is this. I want the, can I get the index as well? No, what do I want to do? I could actually, I don't think I do need that. I would think I want to, I want to iterate over it with effectively, I want to get, someone tell me a better way of doing this, right? This is terrible. So basically this is going to get me the index that I'm actually looking for. But I like, it feels like that's more transforms than I require. My mind is not working. Tell me what it should be. Okay, that is actually working. So, but I don't want to replace it with the first match. I want to replace it with the second one. Tom, see, you're sick. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Is it the dreaded lurgy? Okay, this is actually doing it. Is it ready for this? I can't believe that actually is working. Like, bear in mind what we're doing here is we're actually adding a server-only component. Like, this won't work when we build it, I think. But it must be the magic of HMR. It's working in development. But let's see what we can do if we build it. Yeah, crash. Basically because rollup, I think, has already passed the, it's already rendered, built the, thing. Okay, let's make it, let's give it something. Let's ask ChatGPT to refactor this, okay? See what it will do. Okay, I feel like I'm going to use today a very cool app called Golem. I don't know if you have come across Golem before, but it's pretty nice. Okay, this is Golem. It's actually built in Nuxt. Check it out, and it's built by someone on the dev on the Nuxt community. And you basically add your own OpenAI key, and then it's a nice interface. So and you can interface with like GPT-4. So I do have Copilot Chat, but I don't have it in this. You can't be trusted. You mean GPT-4? Oh, Copilot Chat. Okay, would you refactor this code to be more performant? Oh, thank you. Yes, we're aware. We're aware. You do not need to tell me. It is. Also, it doesn't know about that. This is exactly the same. Array from does exactly the same as spreading it. Well, thank you. Okay, a generator function, that would be fine. Okay, what is it going to do? Yeah, that could be fine. But I feel, is it really that complex? Okay, pizza, here you go. This is the code. This is GPT-4, yeah. Ugh, that's not pasted very well. I'll message you directly. Maybe I can message you. You can see the code. Yeah. Okay, pizza. It is this. You can go and research it and come up with some amazing solution. But check out Golem Chat, by the way. Although obviously he hasn't performed that well here, this is just an interface to ChatGPT, and I do think it's just nice. It's just lovely, and it's built in Nuxt. So why wouldn't you want to do it? Oh, maybe it wasn't GPT-4. Let's try it again. Huh. Would you refactor this code for better performance? Make a new chat just in case. Okay, that is more interesting. The problem is, so Cody has given an answer that Omar has given me, which is not right, because we actually do need to, so this is what Cody has said, people. Cody has given us this, but it's not right, because we do actually have to iterate, because there's going to be lots of server components in a file, and we need to find which one. So we do need to loop. We need to loop. That's the whole point. It would be easy enough just to grab one, but we actually need to find the server component that is at index 3 or whatever. Do you see what I mean? Cody is not, basically the ChatGPT bots are not helping us here. Although, Omar, you could explain that to it, and maybe it will come up with a better answer. But we have to iterate over it. I think the most performant thing is actually this. So we would just say match of matches and then say if string I is components index, then there we go. We could also basically convert this to a number. So, but only if it is a number. Like it might be undefined. And I wonder what happens if we do number undefined. Nan. Okay. How about if we do? Can we do to fixed? No. To number. What would we be able to do? Can we convert that to a number? No, we can't. Pass int. What if I pass int an undefined thing? Also not a number. Yeah. And also we don't want to convert it to a number necessarily. We could do it like we could do this. So this is slightly more efficient because it only does it once. And basically that's okay, the second version that Cody has given us here is also wrong because it is doing exactly the mistake we did in the first place, which is that match index is not the number, like the number of how many matches it is, it's how far into the string it is. So like this is why I never find when it's something like it's ChatGPT is very good about helping you think outside the box or break some kind of thing, but this kind of thing, I don't know. I've never. Okay, I'm happy with this actually. So basically what this is going to do is basically just increment an index, which is fine, right? Okay. Now the issue is that we need to do, yeah, exactly. As long as you can look at it and see, is this good or not? What we need to do, and I'm just going to, for the memory, stick in Brendu's issue. Aha. Ah, it's you, Brendan. I see. Cool. I'll have a look at that in a sec. Yes. Right. You are quite right. So what we want to do, I think the lag is getting like over the stream, the lag grows. And so I see people's comments, I think, like slightly too late. Oh no, rather, I see them when you make them, but your comments are about something that has been for me a couple of seconds ago. Right, let's see. Presumably this works fine in dev mode because we have HMR. So the issue here is how can we get this to work without HMR? So in production, how are we going to make this work? There are a couple of options, I think. One is we could move things into the Nitro build. Another is there a way somehow to... We might need to do a scan or something. That would be terrible, but it might be required. Like to perform a pre-pass step that's outside the actual plugin step. Last index? Oh, on the regular expression. Interesting. Deliberately use a stateful regular expression. What am I thinking? So the thing that we need to do is not require HMR. So Bootsman, it will be tomorrow, almost certainly. So it will be, we're waiting for a release of H3 and Nitro. Next, like the current state of Next, like of the main branch is probably very, very close to what we're going to see in the release. But yeah, we're waiting for some upstream changes. Okay, so we don't want to require HMR. And we basically are triggering an update to component islands. Actually, there's something I've been wondering about. So we actually deliberately don't watch in build mode. Let me see what happens if we re-enable the watcher. Shouldn't make a difference, right? Yeah, no good. Let me think about this. So the issue is basically that we are like when we transform components.islands.js, it's already happened. It's already emitted the file. So it's too late. So is it possible, like the change that we've done, like is very minimal. Like this is not, like we could do this in advance. So we could basically do something like this. But it has to be for everything which is a server component. And the issue is we don't necessarily know that it's going to be part of the build. Hydration node mismatches, they are both something that you need to be concerned about and a matter of server versus client rendering. Normally it's either because state is different between server and client. So maybe you read your user's authenticated state from a cookie, from a like local storage, and that's not present on the server. Or maybe you are like something like that, different state. The second possibility is that it's like invalid HTML. So if you do something like have an A, like a link, nested inside another link, that's invalid HTML. But normally client-side only JavaScript frameworks don't complain. So you can create these invalid HTML structures in your browser. But if you send it from HTML from a server, your browser will correct it, and that breaks hydration because instead of an A inside another A, what happens is you get an A that then the browser ends, and then another A comes. There's two A's side by side, and then an empty end tag that doesn't correspond to anything. That's how the browser normalizes it. Okay, what am I thinking? I was thinking about writing like a little post on performance, like how to, like what's the final, like the polish step when you write a Next app, and then you need to basically get it to 100 a Lighthouse. How do you do that? Like what are the steps that you take to take your app from like the default out of the box, you achieved this, up to something that is, as close as you can get to perfect? I think that I think they are. But I mean, there's always, I think you always need a step, like you always want to have a step where you do iterate over that. But I think that's very nice for you to say. Yes, you can set the default values of props in your app. Yes, all good. So I wonder if I could basically set this to be a written file. Will that force rollup to look at it when I update it? Maybe. And let me update the is ignored again, just in case. It probably won't. Like it won't be watching, but Brendan, yes, nothing to do with Next Module Builder. Yeah, that's not working. Let's take a look at your issue. Okay, so you want to programmatically create pages based on configuration. You want instant feedback. You want a better way to replace or modify a page. There is, I suspect. You basically need to trigger a reload of routes.mjs. So just as I've done here with this code, you could do the same with routes.mjs. So, or at least this might work. I won't actually know until I test it, but you basically do that here anyway. So within, if you are, yeah. Let's see. Yeah, so you can basically do that. That is going to do the same thing as changing like the Nuxt changing a file. So you would run this with that code. I'll paste it in the chat. Not that it will necessarily come through, but that's what you want to run, and that should do everything you need it to do. So give it a try, and I'll comment on the issue as well. It might. You might still need to call HMR, but that is all you need to do in order to trigger the update and the actual routes in the file. Okay. So I mean, give it a try. Like I don't have enough context to try it right now, but that might work for you. Right. HMR. And this is also like this is an ordering issue, right? So rollup is just going to go through in the order it wants. Is there any way I can customize the order rollup passes something, like to defer something down the line? Order. I don't see a way of doing it within here. I think we basically have to run this transform manually. But the problem is if we run this transform manually, we don't know actually which ones are in the build. I feel like it's, in other words, if you have like components that aren't used, but they do have server only components, I think my suggestion in here of triggering HMR when called is the main thing that we need to do. So basically what you want to do is to be able to call that and for it to trigger HMR. So that is the thing that we should implement. Wait a second, what do you want to update? You want a full reload, like a full reload, but that's not HMR. That's like a full reload. So in order to do that, it would actually be relatively straightforward in your client-side code. You simply would add this code in a Nuxt plugin. Oh, you've updated the page. You've not changed the root configuration. Yeah, that's a little bit more interesting. That is basically HMR from modifying the templates. So if we tracked differences between the templates, then that might be a way for us to manually trigger HMR, which might be a nice thing to do. Okay, so where am I up to here? So all that we have to do in advance is go over this bit. This is the thing we have to go over. And we have to do that over every piece of code that is going to be included in the build. Hey, Sean, welcome. And we have to do it really before we start. So we could add an extra step here. And basically say, weather is cloudy, but not raining, which is a definite positive. Yesterday it was very, very wet. Okay, so I think what we want to do, like the benefit here is that we don't actually need any build step. We're just actually looking at the raw code. And I think we can do that. So we could basically say at this point, yeah, I think we can do that. Okay, so this is what we're going to do. So we're going to add a hook for the, so this is all view components in your project, I guess. That's a lot of code. But we could basically scan it. Raining, oh dear. How far up are you? Like, how long will it take it to come down? Cool. We need to get something going up in the Northeast UK. Like we need to like have a meetup or something. Apart from the parts of Europe where it is insanely hot. So like, you know, you can't get a break. It's very much okay. So So this code would do it. So that would allow us to scan any file, which is a view file in the project. And basically, is it possible to run it in maybe in the resolve step? Thing is, I think these will be called out of order. So we'll probably resolve it long before we get to it, but still we'll try. So if next options dev const code is await. Oh, for goodness sake, that won't work either. Like the problems with doing it via like a file system scan is that it won't count for virtual files. I mean, we might just have some restrictions on what you can do with server only, but we could basically say, okay, we'll say next VFS ID or await read file ID catch null if code scan component code ID and log it, just so we know what's happened. I'm just logging the string ID. Well, that was not exactly what I meant. Let's see, does it work? No. Again, it's running in the wrong order. So resolve ID is not going to be good enough. I didn't think it would. So let's just grab this out. And instead, we're going to do something here. So if next options dev, and I think we can say it's only going to be pages and components. We might even say that it can only, like we can add some restrictions. Another plugin for build only. We could do that, but the issue is I think that doing it in the plugin is just not going to work because it has to have processed all of this before the build starts, because Rollup is building one part of the code that we need to change based on the plugins later on. And we're already running it pre, so as early as we can be. I think that's sort of the problem. Unless you, like, if you have another way of doing this, I would love to know it. So we basically will want the all the components and all the pages. So which we're going to get those by hook. So next hook components extend, and we'll do the same for next hook pages extend. And basically, in each of those, we'll scan the component. So we'll say in this case, for const component of components, we'll try this, and we'll say that's going to be component.file path async, and then we're going to do that. Okay, and then we're going to do very, very similar here in pages extend, except it's going to be roots. So Okay, so we've added a couple of hooks that will basically, before we even start building, scan all the pages and all the components. Let's see if that is going to do what we want. No, for goodness sake, why not? Why not? Have we registered this too late? Does this happen? Let's just check. Is this running at all? So what we want is to hook into scan component and basically say console log set name from ID. Oh, Tina, go well. Hey, it's going okay, I think. Let's see what actually happened. Nothing. Yeah, I think it must just be registered too late. So this because this plugin isn't being initialized until the actual Vite build has started. And so what we want to do is run this early. So so what we want to do is actually at this point oops. Come on, that. So we want to stick these things out and we'll also want to move the component map out too. And there we go. Okay. So with this, that should now run, I think. Let's try it. Thank you. It's called Denk Mono. And interesting. Not code return. What do you mean specific about them? Hey, Ben. Northeast. Assemble. The issue here is actually the so to answer your question, we are hopefully trying to get them this way, Nux.vfs, if that's what you mean. Oh. Oh, I see. Let's try this again. Invalid URL. Thank you. Does it not? Returns a file URL. Ah. So it should instead be m.href. I don't know if it's just a string. For goodness sake. So what are we doing? We're resolving a path. We're returning a string. So it doesn't return a URL. So what's the issue? Invalid URL. Okay, let's do this a little bit differently, just for ease of debugging. So let code equal this. If no, then we can stick it in here. And in the block, we can do a little bit more stuff. Const file name is, let's resolve it. And basically, if file, then we're going to log it. And we're going to try and read it. And then we're going to clean this up afterwards. Okay, so we've got that. And we don't care if it's null, that's fine. Okay, we'll make it undefined then. Hey, nice to see you. Okay, so and for goodness sake, we can accept a undefined value there. What I'm trying to do is, having built something that works in dev, I now need to make it work in production. So what we're trying to do is scan some files in advance of a build in order to extract some data that we would normally do in a plugin. Now, for whatever reason, these files are we're not resolving them properly. So we're trying to resolve that. Oh, we don't want to try resolve. We want to try resolve path. This is what we want. Actually, let's try that. Yeah, there they all are. But it's still not working. Okay, so what is the issue? So it is actually logging it. We're not getting the app. Because we're not scanning, we're only scanning the components and pages. I wonder if we want to actually also scan every file in the project. This is going to be a terrible performance hit, though. And hey, Florent. Oh no, not Florent. That's Flow0, Flowco. Good to see you. Well, my thoughts are not particularly helpful right now. I'm basically just thinking, like, there are ways of solving this, but it's a massive, blunt object. Like, do we really want to scan all the files in a project? No, because, like, I mean, think about what that's going to do. Just to enable server component, like, it's not good. I mean, server only components. It's a nice feature, but if it requires a pre-processing step before the build, that is not great. I mean, we can see if this will work if we can convert this into a page. In other words, whether our step is working, because it's only processing pages and components. And that might be something that we just say is going, like server only is only going to work in there. It's a special feature there. We can be more granular about it. It's still not. Okay, so which ones were we processing? Let me start logging that back again. Well, it's not finding it, right? So, okay, because we didn't implement the same logic here. So we basically need to resolve path. Yeah. I guess. And then I think we're just going to go into the component and say full text search and next content. There you go. Would be good. It would be good. Okay, so we do get it in there and in there. So in the client. So before the client build and also before the server build. So then why is it not working here? So we can say is there maybe a mismatch? That's what I'm wondering. Interesting. Oh, well, this is an interesting concept. Maybe there's a different problem. Yeah, maybe there's a different problem because at this point, I am. Oh, sorry. Julian, this is about respecting server only. So that basically we can do something like this and this gets transformed into a server component. So you can just stick it in your code like client only. So I feel like we're on the verge. We're on the verge of something, right? Because this is not being called now. Like this is not hitting. So why is that not hitting in build, but is hitting in production? So oh, okay, no, we do actually have the name. It is coming in. So we do have the name, but we're never loading it, it seems. So the issue might be that the issue might be that this is too late. Let's move that up as well. All these hooks. Okay, let's try that again. Nope. Okay, so why is this not working? Let's just have a quick, I'm just going to pull open the component islands template And let's see why it's not working. Okay, so this is running. It needs to have component island. Okay, that's what it is. It's still, this is being rendered as a template before we get to before we make this change. Okay, so basically we're hitting components extend. I feel like maybe, oh no, the issue is we don't need to do it in templates now. We should do it in, okay. We do it in templates for dev because we need to constantly be updating it. But in production, we want to push them here. So we will actually just directly push it here. And basically say that. The first step is getting it working, right? And then this awful mess of code we can make better. So is it still not working though? So we've got our islands that we're logging, but it's so I guess pages extend. If you put something in client only, then it should not have a problem hydrating. Basically, yeah, that is a solution to hydration. But it basically opts out of server rendering for whatever's within the client only, which may be exactly what you want. It's a potentially good solution. Could it be an async issue? Is there any chance that we are not awaiting something? Don't think so. Now we're registering this in Nuxt hooks. Okay, when is app templates being called? Oh, but that's only for dev, so that's fine. Scan component. Okay, we're going to stick this in debug mode. So when you enable debug mode in a Nuxt app, it's going to log out all of the hooks. So it's a lot of code we're going to see. So basically what's happened, okay, we've loaded our modules, then we're sort of loading component directories, components extend, app templates, which is where you see the islands. Then we're actually compiling and writing all these virtual files, then pages extend comes after. I think that's interesting. So I think we should actually call pages extend earlier before we write the templates, because we need it to write the roots. So why is pages extends called so late? Okay, we call it in several places. I see we actually call it within the template generation. So I'm right-handed. And thank you for the subscription. Why do you ask? Is it because I have my sidebar on the right-hand side? Just going to stick this in there and see if it makes a difference. It does. It does make a difference, but not enough of a difference. We still have empty islands by this point, and we have not, in fact, called pages extend. So I think it's so weird. Well, that's a nice idea. But I think it's a potentially very dangerous one to have shared utils between server and client. Because it, particularly because of auto imports, you might not know what's being imported into that file. So you might have something imported into that file that is in fact dependent on a particular environment. So that's what I would be worried about. Okay, so why is this not being called here directly? Ah, it's in Nitro init that this is, no? Ah, the issue here is that it's when we're registering the pages extend hook. It's hard to monetize when you want to be an open source developer. What do you mean by monetize? Exactly. So, I mean, so from my point of view, this is like, there are lots and lots of different things that you might want to do as an individual. Okay, earn money. That's a bit different, because monetize suggests that what you're doing is you are trying to sell something that you do, I think. You have a product which is free and now you want to monetize it. So you want to start charging for it somehow. I've done a lot of different things. So I've run a creative agency. I've done a lot of different things. It's a SaaS startup, and consultancy. So open source is very different for me. It's very different. Like, this is my hobby. This is something I do because I enjoy it. And because I like to help people. And I think if I were to try and do that, if I were to try and monetize that, I don't think I would like it. I think it would be, it would be stressful, because, what if I lose, is this I think it would do something internally to me. if I were trying to monetize it. I also don't think people would. I don't think it would be nice. I don't think people would like it from me. I don't have a problem with other projects that are trying to monetize. There are lots of different ways of monetizing an open source project. So I think if you like at the Laravel pattern, where there's the core which is free, and then there are projects built on top of it, which is great. Yeah, I don't want to be. I don't like for me. If I were doing something to earn money, I wouldn't be doing open source. Open source is not a good way, I think, of earning money. It's like I think you could get paid more to do to work for a company like that. So that's not why I do it. So but I mean at the same time it's right for people to be, sort of to be able to live. That's good. I mean that I think there are a couple of different startups who are trying to rethink how open source projects are paid, and how developers actually get compensated for what they're doing. But there are lots of different things. So one is you can have a sort of Vercel model where they are funding open source, but then at the same time, there's if you want a first class React an Next.js site, you might use Vercel because they sponsor, and Next.js is their framework. So there's that pattern, the sort of hosting pattern. There is I think maybe a slightly different pattern, which is where you fund the maintenance of an open source project or maintainer without particularly asking for a lot in terms of strings, but it says something to the developer community. I think that historically has been the path Netlify has taken. I think you can also have a sort of like a light version and then a pro version of something else. I don't particularly like that, but it's legitimate. So you can have a sort of a version, like extra things on top. I mean, thinking about it, it's totally legitimate actually. But I just don't like it for Nuxt. But some good examples of that are sort of like plugins like TipTap or FormKit even, where there's the sort of pro version on top. Tailwind as well, where you have a sort of you're buying like more components, more features on top of a. Although I think maybe Tailwind is a little bit more like a theme or like a starter templates on top of something. So I mean, the one key thing to remember, by the way, is that Nuxt and Nuxt Labs are two different things. So Nuxt Labs is a company. It's not as close as Tailwind Labs and Tailwind, the project, I don't think. So Sebastian and Alex, who created Nuxt in the first place, have also created Nuxt Labs. They've raised money and they're building products based on Nuxt. And they also fund Nuxt. They donate to it. They provide a sort of safety net. And so, for example, I don't directly receive any sponsorship that goes to Nuxt. I'm sponsored by Nuxt Labs instead, and I'm also sponsored by individuals and companies directly. But sponsorships to Nuxt don't go directly to me. They would go to Nuxt Labs, and then Nuxt Labs would sponsor me. But Nuxt Labs is not the same thing as Nuxt. So Nuxt Labs is building products separately. I don't know if that answered any questions. Right. The problem here is when we are calling this, when we're registering this, we're doing this in the components module, which is here. Did I check out Radix View? I have not checked out in detail. Although I have come across it. The interesting thing is that right now there are two products, two open source projects, which each are doing the same thing, which is implementing Radix for Vue. So there is Radix Vue and there is Oku UI, and they both implement Radix. So if you have a look, and actually Mehmet is in the chat, I think, if you want to check. So let's see, Oku docs and Radix Vue. There we go. So some information, aspect ratio, let's see, components is what we probably want. Checkbox, for example. Label. Progress. And radix.vue has these components. So very similar. I think the code is quite similar as well in the two projects. I wish they were working together, honestly. But there's no reason you can't have two different projects. But it feels like both at the same time. But they both look great. Like, the projects look great. I'm really delighted that there's Radix UI coming to the Vue world. That is fantastic. Okay, so let's see, where are we? So we're debugging an issue with ordering of what's happening when. And our debug mode is telling us that basically we set up the components module here. And it presumably it happens after the pages module, which is why it isn't registering the hook for it. So if we instead move it before, let's try that. Let's try this. I feel like I shouldn't need to do this, but I'm guessing it will work. Hoping it will work anyway. No, islands is being called. Oh, because that's why. Let's undo that for the moment. The issue is obviously we have our components module, which is we're actually calling a hook in the same module, which is happening beforehand, I think, which is up here. So we probably want to just add this there. I see. It's we still need to do this, probably. I think the server block module is a great candidate for a module. So I would like to hear more from people using it who find that it's helpful or not helpful, before we could think about whether or not it should be in Nuxt itself. Okay, this is still not working. So we're compiling everything. Why are we compiling everything so early? Because I don't think we should be compiling the templates until all the modules have run. So we're compiling all the templates here, which is I think I know why. I think what's happening is we are calling update templates somewhere. And that's probably forcing an early calling of the... Okay, anyway, what we should be doing is we're calling app templates when we are generating the app. We are generating the app when we are calling build generate app. Yes, that's right. And we're calling that when we call build. And we call build when we have build done. No, not that. Calling build when we call build next. We're calling build next when we are running build. And that should be once we've loaded next. Now we load next in kit, and we load next in next itself. And in here, we push the modules, we create next, we await next ready. So next ready happens there. But we want to make sure that all the hooks, pages extend particularly, needs to happen before next is ready, I think. This is a tricky one. This is a very tricky one. So okay, I'm going to remove some of these things. So the I think part of this is my problem so by registering hooks in a build, registering hooks that are called in other modules, I think that is basically just a tricky thing, particularly because pages extend is meant to be called in the generation of templates. So when templates are being generated. So I guess what you'd want to do here is, this is too late to push components in. Oh, no, we're not doing that anyway. That's for dev only. When we're calling components extend, that's probably fine. It's the pages that's the issue. Let's just confirm that that's the problem. So if I move this into a component, so if I move that back to app, and we have a component called test server, and we stick this whole thing in there, and we just stick test server in here. And run the build. Does it work? Oh, thank you, by the way, about the keyboard. Okay, that all looks like it's working. We're getting the right kind of logs, and we hit it, and it's all coming fine, and it is coming through. So there's no issue with the components side of things. The issue is the pages. And in particular, so pages extend is called when generating the pages. So I think what we would need to do is we are scanning the pages, and then we need manually to update just the component islands template in here. I think that should be fine. It might also cause an infinite loop. So let's check. I'm going to move this back into app.view and remove it from here. Oh, not app.view. We need an index. Doesn't look good. Yeah, not. So the issue again is that we are scanning for pages. So we're doing all the right stuff, I suspect. So when we call pages extend, we are extracting it. Okay, that's fine. But the template isn't updated in time to be written, I guess. Interesting. So it's just not rewriting it. That's odd. Why wouldn't it rewrite it? Okay, I would expect to see that what happens here is that we scan the pages. Let's see. Do I use more console log or debugger? I think it's very, very clear which one I use. Console log. He says actively writing console log. I assume this would be reported to me anyway. So why is this not working? So update templates is going to call builder generate app. Builder generate app is interesting. Okay, builders generate app is being called, but app templates is not being called. So it's not actually generating the app. And that's strange. Is this only in dev mode? Ah, that's what it is. Okay. I think we want to do this in production as well. Let's try that. Okay, it's not working. But I feel we're somehow further than we were before. Okay, so we do have the island coming in. We do have the template being run. But this is now happening within the build. And the problem is, I guess, the first time it doesn't exist. It's being called too early. This is tricky. Okay, so let's see. What do we have? We have a stub component, which we can ignore. We've moved that out of the dev only so that we do regenerate app, even in build mode if that's called specifically. We want to be able to Okay, so what's the problem here then? So we are pulling out the... Maybe that was all that was required, actually. Let's see. I feel like this is a step change in terms of what is potentially working. Let me just try disabling this for the moment and seeing if anything still works. So at this point thank you, by the way, that's very nice of you to say. Okay, what's actually happening? Oh, no islands. So I think maybe we did need this step. So if that, yeah, is still failing. Okay, so let's pop it back open again. So what we're doing is we have something in dev, which is that we update it in the templates. We're pushing the component, and this bit is fine. That's running. This bit is clearly not being called because we should log it out here. So console log processed ID. What do you mean by an architecture of functional diagram? As in, is there a way for me to know what I'm doing or to describe it to other people? Okay, so we are doing this. We're resolving it. Resolved and processed. Okay, Okay, wait. I think I need to remove some logging because this is working better than I expected. So why it's not actually fully working? So we've got our server component, our server islands. Let's just take a look at our actual server and see what's going on. So we have our chunks, we have our island renderer, and we should have some components in here. So we do have this island component. So why is it not, this is right. So it exists, it's in the build. So is the issue that the hash doesn't match, maybe? So like this is correct. Then our when we're rendering index, we are rendering that. So maybe oh, for goodness sake. Name and props. This is going to be very embarrassing if it's just, okay, no, that's not it. So is the issue in, oh, sorry, I changed it in the wrong place. Well, this is fine, I guess. I can put it in here. But I'll just have to rebuild. There should be. Yep, I'll make it available after the call, after the stream. Okay, so island component not found, and there's no name being passed. Okay, why is there no name being passed? Because in our server, we should be rendering a name. In our index, we have island name. And that is an example. We are doing it here, name. Do we need to pass props as well? Okay, I'm doing a little bit more logging. Sorry about this. We basically have this island context. I'm gonna log out every URL. Sorry, Julian. It's all going. I feel we're very, very, very close to figuring out what this issue is. And okay, so we're hitting it. It is a. Oh, the problem is my use of an underscore. So let's, believe it or not, we use an underscore for special purposes in island components. So we're going to change this, everybody, to the letter I for island. And let's try that one more time. Ta-da! It's working. So we now have a server-only component which wraps up DevTools, like not Nux DevTools, but which wraps up, automatically creates a server component and embeds it in the build. So this is very, very work in progress. I'm going to have to go, actually. I'm going to have just catching up with somebody. So thank you everybody for joining. We actually built server only, which is nice. It just needs to be refined and made a bit nicer. And I'm going to commit it with a whip, which gives you a feel for exactly how finished it is. It needs not a lot of love to make that look nice again. But yeah, okay, and some refactoring. But thank you for being there. It's been yeah, as I said, it's been really nice. It's been really nice to get a little bit longer without having random power outages in the middle of the thing. So what I wonder is whether we want to join anyone. People up for joining the Primeagen? Okay, let's do it. See you all later. And yes, 3.7 tomorrow. Fingers crossed. There is a little bit more work to be done, but I think it will be. I think it will be a lot of fun when it comes out. See you later. Bye.